Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and welcome to Learning Game Development. In this section we're going to talk about versions and platforms within Unity. Don't forget, click the subscribe button and click on the bell icon as well to stay up to date with everything I upload in this series and everything else on game development on my channel. There's always loads to see, loads to learn and loads to do. With that in mind, let's get to work. So Unity as an engine has existed for a very, very long time. It's existed for longer than some people have even been alive. So many years ago, the very first version of Unity I used was version 4. And then in around 2015, version 5 came out. And from 2017 onwards, the naming convention of the engine switched from a numerical to a yearly implementation. That's why we see versions such as 2018, 2019, 2022, 2023 at that point. So there are many different versions of Unity, but essentially they all function the same. There are major changes here and there, but if you're following a tutorial from, let's say, 2018, it will still function perfectly well in 2024. Yes, I know there's 6 years difference. However, the version itself doesn't physically matter in terms of game development. There are things that have moved around, and there are sections which may have shifted completely or have been deprecated, but there are replacements for those. So, one thing I want to talk about mainly is the difference between, let's say, version 2017 and version 2022. There is 5 years difference, but the engine itself is physically the same. It will look roughly similar to this, but there are things that have moved around. And a lot of people do get confused by the versions of Unity. They think because they have a different version of Unity than the tutorial they're following, that that's the reason things aren't working. 99.9% of the time, that isn't the reason. Version is never likely to be a reason for something not working. It's either usually like a scripting error, or if they can't find something, it's moved around. So a classic example of that is many years ago in an older version of Unity, if you went to Window, you would be able to find here the lighting settings. At one point, they then moved it into a submenu for rendering. So if you ever are following a tutorial and cannot find where something is, you just need to basically maybe do a little research or look around in some of the submenus. But like I say, essentially, it's all the same. If you fancy going back a couple of years in time and installing an older version of Unity just to see how it was, you can do that in the hub. So if you were to click Add, you can see here the official releases go to 2018.4. However, you can go to the download archive and basically download versions from years and years ago. If you wanted, you could go all the way back to 2015 and download version 5 if you want to. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it now. I think Unity as an engine has evolved well enough at this point that you don't need a version that old. It's probably also worth noting that your PC specs are vital when coming to game development. You can't have a potato PC for developing. Honestly, it may work, but it'll be slow and you won't be able to test it properly. And it is amazing the amount of people that I see trying to develop on such low spec PCs. I think just as some bare minimum specs, you should probably have at least an i5 or equivalent processor, probably at least 8 gig RAM. Ideally, if you've got an SSD, that would be perfect. But I know a lot of people don't particularly have them. They still use the old hard disks, which that doesn't make too much of a difference. You know, the SSD is more for speed than anything. So let's talk a little bit about platforms as well. Now, when we made the installation, we had the opportunity to select a couple of things. So let's say, for example, we want to go to the recommended release, select next, and here we have all the platforms. So we have the Android, we have the iOS, we could select tvOS, Linux, Mac, UWP, Windows build, some documentation and language packs and whatever. So these are the platforms that we could theoretically develop for. Now, if we come off this and go into Unity itself, let's say that we've decided we want to build for Android at this point. So we could go to File, and then we can go to Build Settings, and it will give us the option to change our target platform. And you can see here that I don't have some of these things installed in this particular version. So you would just need to open the download page and get that installed. Now, there are some platforms that you can't develop for unless you have the correct license. For example, a PlayStation platform, you do need a license for that. And you can see it gives you a little message there. And you can select the platform module installation, and it will help you. It will guide you into the correct place to do it. Again, you can see I don't have any of these installed, but if you do decide you want them, you can download that module and get that platform on there. Once you have that, you will see this little switch platform button there, and you'll be able to switch the target platform of development to whatever you have selected. Most of the time when developing Unity, whatever version you've got, you can develop for anything in engine. So if you're in, for example, Windows mode, you want developing for Windows, but then you suddenly want to change it to PS4, PS5 because you've got a license, then you can. You can switch it at that point. It's worth noting, though, the bigger your project file is, the longer it will take to switch over. It's not necessarily an issue, but it's just something to keep in mind. So going back to versions, you can have multiple versions of Unity installed at any one time. And although I think I mentioned it, I have the alpha installed here for 2022. I wouldn't really recommend alpha installations. I think the version that is recommended is always the best version to go with, unless you specifically want to go with an older version. So again, like I say, if you are following a tutorial series that was made in version 2018, you want to follow it exactly. You don't want to have to struggle to try and find where things have moved to. You would be better off selecting version 2018, installing it, and working with it from there. You can also upgrade your projects. So in our projects window, you can see I have a couple of different pieces here, loads of different packs that I work with for my tutorials and whatever else. And let's say we want to upgrade my asset pack. You can change whatever you want to here. So we could select, for example, let's open it in 2020, and then it would upgrade whatever version it was to whatever version it is. Now, there used to be a time when you couldn't turn the version back. And what I always recommend doing is before updating to a new version, make a copy of that project file. So if you go to wherever you've saved it and make a copy of it, just in case it doesn't work, perhaps something doesn't come over correctly, you have a couple of errors. But essentially, that's all it comes down to. So you choose the version you want, and next time we're going to look at getting some objects into our game. So until that next video, thanks very much for watching, guys.